Hey guys, it's lovely to be at Unite Europe Amsterdam. See so many of you here today. Especially after last night's late party. So we are here today to talk about video games communications. Our talk is titled 25 No Bullshit Tips for a Successful Global Games Communication Campaign. We are Plan of Attack. We're a video games agency with offices throughout Europe. We work with Unity, but we also work with a number of different developers. We've launched games including Republic, the Banner Saga. I'm Christopher Clarke. I'm a creative commander.
And I'm Audra McIver, the strategic commander.
Yeah, it's our own company, so we could pick ridiculous titles. So I suppose we want to quickly talk about today's marketplace and where you are with your games and the... So if you're looking on the App Store, there's around 1.4 million apps on the App Store. On an average day, we're about seeing 500 new games on iOS. On Android, that's around about 250. So what you guys are dealing with is an incredibly crowded marketplace. Even on other platforms, such as PC, Linux, and Macs on Steam, you're looking at around 4,500 releases. In 2015, it's been estimated that around 2,500 games will launch on Steam. So all these marketplaces are getting harder and harder for you guys to get the word out there in terms of media coverage. Looking at the consoles, last year, from our estimates, there are around about 60 indie titles on PlayStation 4 and a further 20 on Xbox One. So the question you guys need answering is, how do you stand out from a crowd? A lot of this is done through communications. Your messaging, strategies, asset plans, making sure you have everything in place for your video game launch are really key to getting this right. Ultimately, press coverage, video streams, social media activity, any of this kind of thing helps to build opinion with the opinion leaders, drives awareness, helps build a community, and will ultimately result in sales when you guys launch. So let's begin. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so first and somewhat most importantly, because this can be done in development, what makes your game unique? What is your message? How do you find your message? What we recommend doing is involving your team. This is going to be a theme that you hear a lot during this presentation. Involve your team. Sit down with your team. Have everybody put together a list of maybe 5 features that they think are really unique about the game, and then look at all those together. Figure out what you think are collectively the 5 features that are most unique about your game, and then compare those features with your top competitors. Because if those features line up identically with your top competitors, well, guess what? You might have to go back to the drawing board a bit. Don't design in a vacuum, which means just sitting and having tunnel vision. You need to know what your competitors are doing. You need to know what's going on in the marketplace so that you can create a unique game. I know that isn't necessarily marketing your game, but that's where it starts. If you have a unique concept, then it's going to be easier for you to get visibility rather than if it's just a clone of another game or something like that. You also want to sum up your game in one sentence. So your game is a da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then you take that sentence and you compare that with your competitors' games as well. If that same sentence can apply to other games that your competitors are making, then again, you should think about redesigning a bit or adding some unique features. And go back to the drawing board. Yeah,
and really with, when you think about what is your game unique, what about your game is unique, you need to start thinking about it from the very beginning. When you guys are putting design documents together, when you're doing your first prototypes, really think about how, in the future, you'd message about your game to the press. So tip 2 is the studio spokesperson. Really, you'll need a studio spokesperson for everything, from your initial press announcement, when you need to put a quote together for the press, for video games conferences like E3 and Gamescom, when you're presenting to media for the first time. So your speaker, the things you really need to look forward to in a speaker is, number 1, confidence. Someone who eats, lives, and sleeps video games. Someone who can kind of get involved into media with detailed discussions about different properties. Also, what is really key is to have a complete in-depth knowledge about your product, its key features, and also what the competition is. These are all things that are going to be asked when you're meeting with press. Ultimately, your studio spokesperson is an ambassador for your studio. So it's really good for these guys to be comfortable working with different international media.
Tip 3. So to hell with taboo. The way that things were done even 5 years ago are not necessarily the way that they're done now. A lot of things have changed, and especially if you have a small studio, you may not be able to employ someone who only handles community, who only handles this, who only handles that. You need to kind of have a team that is kind of a jack of all trades, so everybody can kind of do a little bit of everything, and this helps you accomplish more with a smaller team. It's not what is traditionally done, but well, to hell with tradition. I mean, if it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work for you. But it's important to have everyone in your team involved and just as passionate about the project, dealing with community, dealing with players, player feedback, dealing with press, stuff like that. This is especially effective with a small team to get the most out of them.
Yeah, and what's really important is everyone in the studio is totally synced on their message. So what we mean by this, your top 5 features, everyone should be able to religiously spread out what their top 5 features. If they can't do that, there's something wrong. So it needs a little bit of home practice, retraining, meeting with your team, just to make sure that everyone is completely on message. So tip number 4 is identifying influencers. Obviously, PR communications is really all about identifying the influencers, getting them to write about your games or to feature, live stream your content, and to really sort of push it in front of consumers. Today's media landscape has changed rapidly. We both started doing video games communications, well,
a really long time ago.
I did in the late 90s. In the late 90s, we had the first kind of few online sites, but it was traditionally specialist print press. So we had a very small media mix. You look at the media landscape today, you've obviously got a massive online market that covers every nuance of the video games industry, from your big premier game sites such as IGN, Eurogamers, to your PC bloggers like PC Games N, Rock Paper Shotgun, to particular outlets that just cover the development and trade part of the business. So there's a great opportunity for everyone here to get lots of coverage. Also, today we've got the advent of video streamers. It's a really good way of getting your content out there, connecting with new, younger audiences in a different way, which has not been available before. So what we'd like to kind of ask you to do is, you need to do your research. PR can be very time-consuming, but it really can pay dividends in the end. So what we recommend is researching for those influencers who are going to like similar genres to your game, who are going to kind of cover similar platforms, but also look for these guys and what kind of hot industry topics they're covering. And we'll go into a little bit later about the pitch process and how that works.
You're going to hear the word research a few times today. Yeah. Okay, so tip 5. What do media want? So because the market is a lot more saturated now than it was years ago, and because there's a lot more different types of media, a lot of different kinds of games, media receive between 30 and 50, sometimes even up to 80 press releases in a day. So when you think about this, put yourself into the shoes of these editors and journalists that you're contacting. If you were getting 80 news articles a day or 80 news releases a day, what would you cover this news? What would you cover? So when you're putting together your press release and everything, you have to think about it from that perspective. Think, is this interesting enough? Is this eye-catching enough to get them to cover this out of 50 other press releases? Again, research every media outlet that you pitch, which is time-consuming, but it definitely pays off in the end, because you're essentially, you're not blindly pitching these editors and journalists, because, I mean, again, put yourself in their shoes. It kind of wastes their time if you're asking them to read through all this stuff, and it's a mobile game when they don't even ever write about mobile games. They only write about PC games. This is very important to, A, simply not piss off the journalists, and then B, it just makes it more relevant, it's more efficient, and they will appreciate that. Make sure that your story is unique as well. Find an interesting pitch angle. and go that route. And then that also helps you start a dialogue with the editors, which helps you establish a relationship as well.
Cool. So our tip number 6, probably quite an obvious one, but build a media database. One of the kind of things we want to go over today is today's gaming PR should be done without borders. You need to think of, rather than select markets, whether you're based in Germany or the UK or the Netherlands, you need to think about gaming as a global business now. So one of the things you need to start off doing is build yourself an international media database. Now this takes time. It's not something you're going to do overnight, but we'd recommend putting together something like a Google Drive document where you can have an organic, living, breathing list. Each time you make contact with a new journalist, put their details in there. Put details in about what these journalists are interested in. When was the last time you spoke to them? So you can always go back and track exactly when you met with them. It's really worthwhile, if you're meeting with if you're sending an email to a journalist and you spoke to him 4 months ago, it's like you've got a note in there saying, hey, I met you at Unite 2015, blah, blah. It's a nice little introduction. Also, identify media streamers, media targets who are going to be key to your product. There's no point contacting mobile media when you're dealing with a PC release, for instance. Mm-hmm. Keeping track of all these guys is fantastic.
Yeah, and pay attention to what they are writing about as well. You can also, another good thing to do to build a media database is if you ever exhibit at larger shows like GDC or E3 or something like that, the conference usually puts together a media list for you. This varies on what country you're in because that kind of thing is sort of illegal in Germany, for instance. But this is a good way for you to kind of get a jump start on your media database as well.
Great point. And that's a really good way, if you can sort of beg, borrow, possibly don't steal, but
yeah.
it's a really good way to start your base off. Tip 7 is the 80-20 rule. So this is really talking about, if you're going to have a big media list by some point, but only really 20% of the media you're targeting are going to be really interested in that title. So when I mean that, if you have a media list that covers all the different console platforms, PC and mobile, and for instance you have an Xbox One release, you really need to only target those media that are covering Xbox One. And primarily those should be like Xbox One sites or the specialist multi-format sites. So what we're trying to get about this is really, you need to identify which outlets are going to care about your news and are likely to publish a story about it. We're certainly not saying don't forget the other 80%, but put the majority of your time into this 20%, and it should pay dividends.
Tip 8, start writing a press release today. I know this might sound completely crazy, but you almost want to start writing a press release before the game is anywhere near finished because it helps you hone your message. As soon as you have a playable build, then that's when you kind of begin putting together the press release and you start thinking about what you want to say about it. The headline is key. This should be something that is very unique to your game. The headline should be exciting and it should draw people in. And then the first paragraph. Okay, again, going back to the press that are receiving 50 to 80 press releases a day, they don't read through every one of those press releases because they actually have writing to do as well sometimes, most of the time. So you want to have everything that you're, pretty much everything that you are announcing in your announcement in the first paragraph so that if they read that and they don't read anything after that, they at least still understand what you're announcing and what you're talking about. The rest of the press release, the quote and all that stuff just kind of reinforces this first paragraph. But it's very important to have everything that you want to say in that first paragraph because you may only have one paragraph to get the attention of journalists.
Yeah. Obviously, we're not saying send out a one-paragraph press release, no. But it's good to have that key information instantaneously available so any media outlet can kind of quickly read through that and see what's interesting. So in that, you really need to be very concise. It takes a number of edits to draft through, but you can create an awesome paragraph all about your game. So yeah, our tip number 9. We're a European agency. We're based in the UK and Netherlands, as I mentioned earlier, but we focus on all of Europe and also North America and other markets. But one of the key things a lot of developers do forget about is in terms of localizing their content. If you're targeting media in different languages, in French, Italian, German, Spanish, Russian, it really, really pays dividends to get your content localized. Yeah, always make sure that your localization, the people you're using, know the games market very well, otherwise I like to get some terms incredibly wrong. So
Yes.
getting good localization is really key in this. But we really recommend that you guys, whenever you're sending out a press release, get it localized. If you think of it from the media perspective, an editor in France or Germany may be getting 30, 40 releases a day, of which 20 of those will be in German and the other 20 will be in English. He's more likely to cover the German ones just because it's a simpler process for him to get his news story online, and he's not having to spend time actually localizing it for a language. So we find there's an incredible pickup if you do get your content localized. And also it shows the respect that you're taking these different markets seriously.
Tip 10, press release timing. This is very important as well because, again, these editors are receiving so many press releases, so you don't want to send it, to have something like the fact that you sent it at the wrong time to cause you not to get coverage because they just miss it in their inbox if it's buried or something. So basically, like most of us, media, they're human too. They don't really like Mondays or Fridays. So we usually recommend not sending them news announcements on Mondays or Fridays unless you absolutely have to. But they're just like us, they're more likely to take a Friday off to extend the weekend. Mondays, they probably have a big backlog of emails that they've gotten over the weekend. And I mean, let's face it, who wants to go in at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday and actually work? So we recommend distributing your release on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and in the morning. And this is very important as well, because if you send out a press release in the morning in Europe, which is perfect timing, we like that. But then if you send it out at the same time in the United States, it's the middle of the night there, you might get buried under a bunch of other emails. Never, ever, ever, ever send a press release in the evenings or on the weekends. The chances of them actually seeing the press release are pretty slim.
Yeah. I think you've always got to think in your mindset about multiple time zones, and it's a good task to multitask. Think about when will journalists want their press release. They want them in the morning, so whether that's your morning time or their morning time, it always needs to be their morning time. Otherwise, it's going to be at the bottom of their inbox, and they may not even get to your news by the time you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, next we're going to talk about screenshots. Screenshots are really sort of really a window into your game. It's one of the first opportunities you guys are going to have to showcase your title to the media. Really, I suppose this is a conservative estimate, but for around about every 50 to 100 screenshots you take, only 4 to 5 of these really should make the cut in quality. You need to spend a lot of time on this, and this is really, really important for how the media are going to get a first perception of your title. In terms of press, screenshots.
And players.
Yeah. Screenshots are used definitely far more frequently by the specialist press, and really it's the first opportunity you guys can show the game to your audience. In terms of the screenshots you choose, be really selective on the quality and the composition. As you mentioned again, and I can't put this point, it's really, really, really important. Bad screenshots are just going to give a bad impression to media. They're not going to want to take a look at your game. Just make those screenshots as exciting as possible. So, I have an example here. And I suppose I can talk a little bit about why the screenshot is awesome. I suppose number one, it's awesome because it's Star Wars. But if you look at the screen, there's no dead space. And the great thing about a screenshot is it's telling a really nice narrative. There's the 2 snow speeders, 2 attacks in the corner. There's even I think a snow trooper around here, lots of laser bullets. So there's something going on. I think, and the way to think about your screenshots is when you first take a look at them, if you're not looking at that screenshot for more than 5 seconds, it doesn't engage your attention, bin it. You need to make sure that you have really nice screen. All your screenshots should tell a story. The composition is really good. There's something going on in every part of the frame.
Mm-hmm. And you want to have a sense of movement in the screenshot as well. Don't make the screenshot static or just too blocky, because that is not very interesting to players or to press.
Yeah, and also you think about when you are making screenshots is to do different versions. It's worth doing a high-res version for print use, but also JPEGs for web use as well. So.
Video content. So over 4 billion videos are viewed daily on YouTube, and over 60 hours of video are watched per minute. It goes without saying, I'm sure that you guys all know that video content is one of the most important selling points for your game nowadays. And it's really kind of expected that you have a video, as long as you have a game that lends itself to video. I mean, sometimes certain types of games are not going to be that exciting in a trailer. But definitely create a trailer that delivers an overview of what your game is about so that you can use that to pull in players and to start building a community. And then you can move forward with nurturing that community. Factors such as genre and how well-known your title is will dictate the style and content of your video. So again, work with your team, brainstorm with your team about how you can really make a great trailer. It's especially important to have a really good trailer when you announce your game, when you first kick off your campaign. And it's also very important to start working on this ahead of time.
Yeah, and also, the days of, definitely today's sort of gaming audiences, in a way, their attention spans are shorter. We're seeing shorter reviews. There's a big sort of drive towards video content. So the video content has to be a massive part of your marketing and sort of communications plan.
Okay, and more on the video content. Don't just rely on CG trailers. We all love CG trailers, but they don't really give any real feeling of how the game actually plays. And at the end of the day, that's what players want. They want to know if this is a game that they would actually want to play. And CG can be really expensive as well. So if you have to choose between them, go with an actual gameplay trailer that shows more about what your game is actually about. That's going to be much more interesting. If your game is heavy on features, then you can actually do a trailer drip strategy where you have a series of trailers that kind of highlight certain features, and you can kind of roll those out in the lead up to your game launch.
So nearly halfway through now, but our 13th tip here is really build an awesome digital press kit. This can be used throughout your campaign from via your initial announcement. When you send out your initial press release, you need to make sure that you have assets on there. So you can either do that through a Dropbox link, or you can use a website such as dopresskit.com, which is actually a really awesome free service. It allows you to basically upload trailers, screenshots, logos, and it's a fantastic tool for indie game developers. So I suppose in terms of the content of the press kit, what do we include in it? It needs to be everything from your game logo, your studio logo, screenshots. Also remember, the screenshots should be watermarked and unwatermarked. Some online media won't take watermarked screens. And request unwatermarked screens. So it's always key to make sure that you have both of these on there. As I mentioned earlier, make sure you produce both a high-resolution versions of your screens and also low-resolution for web and online use. Also important, include key art, video trailers, and a fact sheet in the game.
And spokesperson bios.
Spokesperson bios for anyone there. And also, most importantly, a lot of people forget to do is actually include the media contact details. So if they do pick your press kit up somewhere randomly, they know who to get in contact with the studio. Mm-hmm. Let me see. Yeah. And also, all your assets, do make sure you put them on gamespress.com. I don't know if most of you guys are hopefully aware of it so far, but it's a really fantastic service. Basically, it acts as a big database of every video game announcement. It includes all the assets on there. And media themselves can actually just jump online and quickly download those assets. So it's a really vital PR tool for you.
Make a game and studio blog. As a small studio, you may not have the notoriety of having a big, well-known IP or having had already a lot of successful projects launched. So you need to think about visibility sooner rather than later. And this should go into your planning when you are starting everything out. You want to focus on the game, but you don't want to neglect your studio, and a game and studio blog is a great way to do that. It's something that just lives on your site, and it is very good with keeping community coming back. You really must, I think we say this in the next, okay. You really need to post a blog a minimum of every 2 weeks, and it must be consistent. If it is not consistent, players will not trust you. They will stop coming back, and they won't come back, and you will have lost them. So make sure it's consistent. This can be solved by appropriate planning at the beginning, so that you know what the blog is going to be about, who's going to write it, and when those different blogs are going to post. You really need to be organized. And one way, get your readers to participate. Ask for feedbacks, comments, suggestions from them. What do they want to hear about? And then that helps serve a dual purpose, because your players are happy and you don't always have to pull out crazy topics out of the top of your head. Posts where applicable should aim for a call to action to help establish and build a connection with your audience. Yeah. So don't make it a passive blog, this is what I ate for lunch today. I mean, make it kind of more of a call to action and more exciting and engaging.
And also do make sure when you are putting together your blog strategy, it's really worth putting together a schedule so you can kind of put dates in there, and work out different topics you can kind of cover as you're going through the development process. Obviously, this will be very much an organic list and subject to change, but it's a good way of kind of ensuring that you do kind of meet those deadlines. You do post a minimum of every 2 weeks, and you kind of make the most out of your community as you can. So our next slide is about the pitch, and this we're talking about sort of general media pitches to specialist video games press. Really, it's when you contact a media outlet, it's really going to be your first and sometimes only opportunity to get an editor's attention. Now, when you write a pitch, it's incredibly important not to produce a 1,500-word essay on why your game is freaking awesome. As we've gone through before, all these editors are really, really busy. So what we kind of recommend is your first paragraph should pretty much have a concise version of that pitch immediately. So the journalist can very quickly scan through the first paragraph and find out exactly what you're offering in your feature pitch. It's got to be short, concise, well-structured, and to the point. And do spend some time. If you are going to send out pitches and you do get these features, they can be incredibly valuable to your business. So, again, PR is time-consuming, but it will pay dividends in the end. Also, meet your whole studio team. All of you are going to have different ideas. I'm sure all of you read the different games industry articles on Twitter, so know about the different trends that are coming up in the industry. And really sort of brainstorm together about why your game is unique and different opportunities that you may have going through.
Developer diaries and video walkthroughs. So developer diaries used to be kind of more like a blog, but nowadays I think it's preferred really to do like a video dev diary, something that's more engaging, something interactive with movement and colors and sound and stuff. It's also very important to do a video walkthrough so that the developer plays the plays the game and films a video and does a walkthrough. We've been seeing so many of these lately, especially with E3 last week. We saw tons of them, like these 30-minute video walkthroughs. They're kind of expected now, and it's this is actually should be something that you guys enjoy doing, because you should enjoy playing your game as much or more than anybody else. So it should be pretty easy to do a walkthrough and maybe play through a couple times and think about what you're going to say, so that you don't have long spaces of time where there's just no talking or no narrative about what's going on. Yeah. But these are very important as well.
So in these, always make sure that you add humor. If you do it too long, and if there's not enough, as Audra mentioned earlier, if there's not enough commentary and stuff, media are going to be turned off. So you kind of have like 30 seconds to a minute to initially kind of grab their attention and make sure they don't move on to the next topic. Again, when you're doing developer diaries, video walkthroughs, involve your team. The game is out there. Media are going to want to know about sort of different professions there, what people are working on. So it's really good to kind of show a variety of different parts of the game and the studio itself.
Social media is, it's obviously this has also risen in importance over the last few years. It's more than just a means of relaying updates through like Facebook or Twitter or something. You have to still make it interesting, otherwise people are going to stop following you because you'll be annoying them. You should use the social media channels. They should work both ways with your fans. So you should use those both to communicate to your fans relevant things that they will care about, and to also listen to them, because if you listen to them, they're going to tell you what they care about. And that's what you can focus your social media campaign on. And that also helps build the community, keeps them engaged, and it makes them feel important, so that you build a little bit of loyalty there as well.
Also, in terms of social media, it's key that you kind of identify someone in your studio who can kind of basically manage the social media channels. And to do this, they really need to consistency. If there's, for instance, if there's any negative comments, you need someone to jump on these quickly before they escalate. One of the things that I think is really kind of key to sort of the media mix as well is get on Twitter and start following games journalists. It's a really good way of finding out a few things. What the games journalists are into in their spare time, but also what kind of trends they're writing about, what games they're covering. And just by following these guys, this will give you sort of ideas about your feature pitches, about how you can work with them in the future.
Yeah, it's a lot of your research, and again with social media, as well. In addition to having someone dedicated to the social media channels, you need to plan, and you need to have like a calendar of what is going live and when, and be organized about it. And that way, that supports the jack of all trades mentality that we spoke about earlier, so that everyone on your team can look at it and say, hey, are you going to post today or whatever, or assign a name next to who needs to post what on a certain day. It just keeps you organized, and in the end, it's much less of a headache than not planning.
So tip number 18, the preview campaign. Previews are key to really kind of getting a buzz building, getting media hands-on, and can help, again, with pre-orders and stuff. There's no kind of length in terms of, it's very hard to sort of say to you guys, okay, you should do previews 1 month beforehand, because it really depends on what kind of platforms, what kind of campaign you're having. But what we kind of say is kind of really key is you can only send out preview builds when you've got a really good, stable build. And for this, you need to share it internally with a team, but it's also kind of good to get some outside eyes on it before you send out to media sometimes, just to make sure there's not going to be any big sort of bug crashing issues which the media are going to sort of face. Because these guys, you get one opportunity to make a first impression. If they don't like your preview build, generally previews are pretty positive, but if you have a negative preview, you've either got a lot of work to do for your review campaign.
And if you send them a really buggy preview build, then it's wasting their time, it's inconsiderate, and it's going to piss them off. And then they might have a negative connotation about your game, which you never want. Yeah. You never want to have. It is worth noting, typically we don't do preview campaigns for mobile titles, because a mobile title, first off, it's a lot more difficult to get previews of a mobile title, but then also just because of the saturation of the mobile market, the journalists don't really have or take the time to write a preview of a mobile game, because there are 15 other games launching every day that they want to cover as well. So for a mobile title, you want to focus on the review campaign, and we'll talk about that later on in the presentation.
Now, also, preview builds don't need to be feature complete, but when you send out a build, it's also good to send out some preview notes. So media, you can identify with media what the game is currently missing, how much content in there, and how much you want them to play. Also, with previews, it's really good to think about how much of a game you want to show the media. If your game, for instance, is a 5 or 6 hour experience, you probably only really want media to play around about an hour of that, because otherwise they're going to give the whole ending away. So with media, it's also key to, when they are interested in previews, lock these guys into embargo agreements about what exactly they can show off, and how much of the game they can play through and share with their readers. Also, I suppose, and then we'll cover some review campaigns in a minute, it's really good, if you wish, you can place previews under embargo to a certain date. So you make sure that you get all your previews hitting at the same time. Now, this is a really good opportunity, for instance, if you've got a PC title on Steam, is to have your pre-order to go live the same day that previews come live. To have your pre-order on Steam to go live the same day that you have a bulk of previews going to come through. It's going to generate sales, and hopefully your previews will create some real buzz around it, help create that community on Steam, and go further. Also, in terms of assets, for previews, send them B-roll as well, which is basically sort of like 10 minutes of various footage from game content. If you don't do this, media certainly can capture the game itself, but if you want really nice B-roll showing the game off, you guys have probably got really, powerful PCs. You can create some beautiful footage, and you can kind of show parts of the game that you want to, rather than allowing the media to do that.
It also gives you a little bit more control over your message overall if you create the B-roll yourself. So, review campaign. Very similar to a preview campaign, actually, is a review campaign, except that review campaigns, you can do that with mobile as well. So you want to pitch reviews early under embargo. Pretty much whenever you have the final review build, you can start sending that out. And we really haven't had a problem with typically, if you ask an editor if they wouldn't mind posting or waiting to post their article for the day of launch, typically they're happy to do that because it makes a big difference on downloads and stuff. Again, short attention spans of players nowadays. If they read a review 2 weeks before your game launches, by the time it launches, they may have forgotten how much they wanted to play the game after reading the review. We would say give the media at least 2 weeks if you can with the review build before launch, because again, these guys are busy, so you want to give them plenty of time with your game. If you have investors to satisfy, it's also important to target the Metacritic sites, because a lot of investors look at Metacritic, which we don't have to get into into that too much, but basically you can go to Metacritic, you can look at a whole list of sites that are Metacritic rated, and then you can target those sites. Yeah. But again, do your research, because there will be different editors at different sites that cover different genres and types of games. So. Yeah,
and also Metacritic's a really good way of kind of going through a list. I think there's around about 180 or 200 media outlets on there now who all cover games, and kind of building these into your media database. And even if you don't have a blank contact thing, but these should be sites, newspapers that you should be looking to target in the future. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, quick one on a review campaign. It's all gone a bit wonky here for some reason. So put together a reviewer's guide. Something really kind of outlines the game's key features, for control schemes, and a basic walkthrough of the first levels. I suppose this should be, a document that anyone can kind of come to the game blindly, read it for sort of 15 minutes, and get a good idea about what you're proposing. Sort
of like a fact sheet. I think we probably called this exact same thing a fact sheet several years ago. But it's exactly that. And what you can also do to save yourself time is take the preview guide that you wrote for the preview campaign and just augment that to include all of the final features, and that saves you a little bit on work. Also, you need to be prepared to follow up multiple times with the press. Again, very busy. It's nothing personal, but sometimes they get busy and something huge happens and they forget about your game. So be persistent, but don't be a pest. So don't bug them every single day. Give them a few days. Think about how you would want to be contacted with something like this, and then that's usually a good road to take with the press as well.
But we can also add that some media outlets do take a few emails to get back to sometimes. So
definitely, yes. Even if you work with them all the time. They're just busy. They're just busy.
So our next tip is tip 20, video streamers. Video streamers, as I'm sure you guys know, is incredibly important now. For instance, figures we got from Yuzu from 2015, Minecraft was the #1 video game on YouTube. In total, over 4.3 billion video streams of Minecraft content were in March this year. So I suppose we also want to set a division between video streaming and traditional sort of games, critical analysis media. It's, we don't really see video streaming as media. It's quite different. It's entertainment. These guys are here to entertain. They're big personalities, and it's a much more a casual approach. But it does necessitate a different approach. But their subscriber numbers are massive. I know, PewDiePie has 37 million followers. And if you can even compare this to some of the big traditional
Like IGN, yeah.
Video games online sites who have been around for years and years. The numbers are bigger than some of these sites who have been around 15, 20 years and have multiple staff teams.
And they reach a slightly different audience sometimes too, so it's best to target traditional press and the video streamers.
Yeah, what we've all seen in terms of video streamers, you look at the top 20 video games each month, there is a general lack of mobile titles in the top 20 franchises on YouTube. Generally these are primarily PC and console titles, but saying that, in mobile we're starting to see a big increase with services like Unity's Every Play. It's now much easier for mobile game users to create videos, stream their content, and publish it online. So this is becoming a lot more popular. I think this is really there for a couple of different reasons. Traditionally with PC and console titles, it's much easier to stream the content, and also, PC and titles have a slightly kind of older audience that really kind of wants to see these Let's Play videos. So for video streamers, there are also our brand partnerships are available with different streamers, but these do come at a cost. So this is something definitely to be aware of, and can be some good opportunities, but you will need a budget for these.
Tip 21, events. There are loads of games, trade and consumer events, which I'm sure you guys are very well aware of. But these are a great opportunity for you to get your game in front of a lot of press, because it kind of brings them all together under one roof, so to speak. E3 and PAX are a fantastic opportunity to present your game, as is Gamescom, because they attract such a wealth of media from international media. Discoverability in the digital age is important, so maximize your title's chance to get noticed and build your brand. Building your brand is essential.
Yeah, I think you've really got to think of every event, in previous years, and you can still do press tours, which are awesome, fantastic. But if you're looking at sort of gaming PR without borders for a lot of digital releases, if you're going to do a press tour in North America, the UK, Germany, France, Netherlands, this could take weeks of your time. So you're going to have, your studio spokesperson is going to be out of the office for a couple of weeks. And it's also expensive, flights, hotel accommodation, traveling in between. So if you can kind of basically go under one roof strategy where you're at something like Gamescom or PAX, you've got an incredible opportunity there to meet with dozens and dozens of media who want to check out your game. Also, a really good way if you are looking at going to somewhere like Gamescom is to investigate opportunities with your local games development trade associations. I know, if you go to Gamescom, you'll see stands like the UK Trade Association, UK, Nordic Game has a booth where they show all lots of localized content, and this is pretty much seems to be with most developer associations in Europe. So there could be a really good cost-effective way for you guys to get your game there and show the press. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to spend thousands on creating a booth in the business area, but you need to investigate as many opportunities as you can.
Yes, and these game trade associations, they want to help you. That's why they're here. So definitely explore those options if you are tight on your budget and you want to go to something like Gamescom. Learn from your successes and your mistakes. Don't make the same mistake twice. It's kind of a golden rule. Practice humility and pride simultaneously. So be proud of your successes and figure out what those are, and you want to kind of continue down the success road, but also be honest with yourself when you've made a mistake. We all make mistakes. Don't beat yourself up about it, and don't pretend that you didn't make the mistake. Just learn from it and move on, and it saves a lot of time and blood, sweat, and tears in the end as well.
So yeah, tip 23, once your game is launched, how do you keep it in the news? Obviously you're not going to get quite as much coverage as you did around that initial sort of review campaign when your game first launches, but post news is really sort of key to sort of driving communications for your game or service as you move forward. This can be done in different ways. We kind of recommend regular alerts about any new downloadable content, updates, sales milestones. Also think about becoming an opinion leader in your chosen field. So, as I mentioned earlier, we live in a very fragmented market in terms of games media. There's a lot of media out there who cover industry trends, pocketgamer.biz if you're doing mobile, gamesindustry.biz, Develop, Gama Sutra. And a lot of these people are looking for developers to create opinion pieces. I know basically Gama Sutra in the US has a blog system where pretty much any developer can get in contact with them and start creating regular blog content. So these are really, really key to getting you guys out there, getting you better known, and boosting the profile of your studio. And final point is really, participate in as many podcasts, interviews as you can. Always are labor intensive, but they do certainly pay dividends to your communication strategy.
This leads right into corporate communications, because several of the things that we just discussed are exactly what you need to do to increase your studio profile as well. Increasing your studio profile is fairly obvious. It's very important because it can help you land new projects in the future. It can help you land funding in the future. The more well-known your studio is, the easier it's going to be for launches subsequently. Submit your studio spokesperson for speaking opportunities at events in the industry. This really helps studio visibility, and it helps establish your spokesperson and your studio as thought leaders in the industry. And then the leadership blog posts and on Gama Sutra.
Our final tip for today, and it's going to be quite a long tip, I'm afraid, is research and planning. So, research is kind of really key that you guys, it's an incredibly competitive marketplace. Look at what your competitors are doing. Think about how will my game sit in the marketplace? What are gamers going to like about this? Who's the direct competition? Look at direct competition. Download, buy the games. What kind of review scores did they get? Look at their do some investigations. Go into Games Press. Look at what kind of press releases your competition got out. And, you can kind of get ideas around this as well. So there's no real fast set rules to PR in terms of your different timings, but a lot of it you'll need to kind of figure out yourself. But always kind of assets a great way of working out exactly what your strategy will be. Also, in terms of research and planning, during the games design process, begin building a communication strategy immediately. This again will help you kind of refine your development strategy and your key features. And this, you really need to put sort of a asset calendar together months in advance. Now, this asset calendar again is basically an organic document that you can muddle around with, change and stuff. But it's really good for with you set out your development team milestones. But you also need to set milestones with PR and communications about when exactly you'll be doing. You think you'll have a stable build for preview campaigns, when you'll want to announce, when you want to launch any sort of post-launch activity. And around this time, it's also a great way of thinking about what feature pitches do you want to start talking about in 6 months.
It also helps you kind of circumnavigate the really busy times in the industry. Like you don't really ever want to launch a game during E3 because it's impossible to get any visibility during that time. Everyone is so busy and focused on E3. Yeah. So. And
really, the earlier you can do this, the easier it's going to be. We speak to a lot of developers who only really sort of think about PR a week before a game's launching. And to be honest, by that time it's often too late. So, you guys, one of the things we want to really drive home today is need to think about communications very early on. As soon as you're putting those prototypes together, you've got your game design documents, that's really the time to start thinking about how we're going to get this game out there and get an audience and result in your sales. Even content, plan your video content, what dev diaries you're going to do, different trailers. Again, this can all be changed and sort of mucked around with, but it's kind of really pretty vital to your communications.
So takeaways, just to recap what we've said. Begin early. Begin with your planning early. What are you going to need for the campaign? Talk to your team, involve your team. Build relationships with the media. Just be human with them. These people are people, so don't do anything. Don't pitch them in a way you wouldn't want to be pitched. Don't bore them. Don't waste their time by not having done your research properly. Be considerate, and you'll build a relationship that can last a lifetime. Find an ambassador for your studio, a spokesperson, and then listen to media and the community for feedback and incorporate that feedback as much as possible and engage with your community. That helps make them feel important and keeps them coming back.
Yeah, most importantly, have fun. We're in a games business. Journalists who you're dealing with love video game content. They want to know, and these guys also love hearing from developers and stuff. So, it's a really nice way for you to build a relationship and, make these contacts and hopefully, they'll last for the rest of your industry career and, be a really good platform for you as you go on. Communications, it takes time. It's not a process that you can do one afternoon on for a games campaign. You need to dedicate someone to it, dedicate time to do research, and always think about it's an organic process. It's going to get your PR is going to get better and better. It just takes time, practice, and dedication.
Yes.
Yeah. But thank you very much. If you guys have any questions,
Feel free to ask.
Yeah. The mic man is coming.
Hi.
Hey.
This might be the question not many people likes to ask, but I have to.
Okay.
I was in a small, very, very small team a couple of years ago, and we tried to do what you are recommending. We tried to communicate everything from the beginning, etc., etc. And we were a victim of intellectual property theft.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah. So do you have any recommendation? How can you avoid that or trying to prevent that somehow?
I suppose it really depends on how long was the distance from your announcement to the game came out. Maybe it's a case of actually shortening the sort of preview from the announcement to the launch campaign, so no one's going to take that idea and then run with it themselves.
Yeah, this is actually something that's important. If you have like a really groundbreaking, unique idea, sometimes it does benefit you to keep it under wraps for a little while until you've got it so far in advance. The thing is with IP theft too, if you announce it sooner, like if you jump the gun before someone else does, then it kind of indicates that you had the idea first.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the situation, but you need to definitely be careful. If you've had this happen to you before, you need to really be careful and be able to trust your team because, there are a million ways that somebody can steal your intellectual property.
Yeah.
And just kind of try to keep it under wraps. I would also get a legal patent of sorts or something like that too.
One strategy if you were worried about that could be to have a smaller window between your sort of announcement, maybe build in your announcement previews at the same time, and with that you can basically go to media, kind of basically get them under, doesn't necessarily be written, but get them to agree to an embargo where you can kind of show off their content. They can maybe do a preview of a game, keep that content under embargo to a certain day and have a small window between that, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks for when you're launching. But it's hard to say because it's very mobile, console and PC, all these different platforms, and in terms of how big the scope of the game is, every kind of games communications campaign is different. Like, we're kind of seeing window for releases, even console games now are generally no more than 6 months. Fallout, the latest Fallout game was released last week, and I think they've released a November release date for that. But even 5 years ago when I was doing big PC titles, we'd have
years.
I've worked on games where basically there's been an announcement and it's taken 3.5 years for it to come out, and things that kind of seem to be shortening now. But I think it's for an opportunity like that, to be safe, you'd probably want to have a smaller window. So
I actually agree with the recommendation of doing your preview builds at the same time as your announcement.
Yeah. And, again, there's no hard, fast set rules, so you can kind of really make these rules yourself. We sort of do.
Yeah.
depending on what the product and what the campaign is.
Yeah. If you pay attention to the industry, it'll tell you a lot about how to go about doing these things and how to handle your specific situation as well.
Cool.
Any other?
Yes. Regarding budget, what could be a good percentage of the, let's say, the global budget of the game could be allocated to the market to be good enough to think that the strategy we're going to put in the market, or the marketing is good.
Yeah, again, it's very hard to kind of give you a fixed percentage or price, really. Most of the stuff we've kind of shown you today is our kind of activities that you should be able to do. The main cost of it for you guys is going to be manpower in terms of getting someone in your team to start actively doing PR, doing social media outreach. And that's why we're kind of giving you tips like trying to go to trade associations for Gamescom. We're not really kind of covering any advertising stuff, so it's hard to kind of give you a budgetary figure.
That's another thing that if you want to do more of like a marketing campaign, like an advertising campaign, like site takeovers, brand partnerships, things like that, those all cost a little bit more money, but if you're just doing straight PR, and like Chris just said, all of these things you can do on your own, the cost is going to be time, not necessarily. And so you have to consider that because you have to pay somebody for their time. Yeah,
I suppose think about how much that person you're going to have in-house, how much is that going to cost you in terms of getting someone to do outreach? Because it is, it's not something you can sort of do an hour a week of. Someone really needs to dedicate,
several hours a day at least.
Yeah, because you're going to get inquiries. It's, if you want a campaign to be a success, you do need someone sort of in-house or to help you with that.
And someone who can kind of answer emails and react quickly to jump on opportunities.
But then again, if you've all got a jack of all trades mentality.
Exactly. And if you go that route, again, it comes back to planning. Just make sure that you're organized.
Yeah.
Okay, well, does this mic work? Okay. Thank you, first of all. I would like to know your straight opinion, really, about platforms like Touch Arcade, IndieDB, all those things where you can actually, upfront show the people what you're working on and really get feedback. But then, what is your real opinion about that? Should you do that? Should you go that road? Or is that just a waste of time?
Again, it really depends. Unless I was to look at a project to see what it is, it really depends on the scope of the project. I think IndieDB is great. It's a really good way of getting community feedback. Building that, I've had a couple of clients who have gone on that and done Kickstarters, and they've kind of started off on IndieDB, build that community, and then going into a Kickstarter, and it's been incredibly successful. But it's, I don't want to give you a rubbish answer, but it's really dependent on what the scope of your game is, what platforms you're looking to cover, what kind of genre. Certainly, if you're looking at the PC market, IndieDB, I know, all the big sort of PC games outlets, they spend time on IndieDB every week, kind of checking out new content. So, really trying to get as many eyes on your title is a good thing.
So you think actually, that's probably the second question to that. If you get covered on some kind of like a Touch Arcade, let's say, would you think that has also or reflects to the press just as well? I mean, goes like they're going through the Touch Arcade platform and they go like, oh my God, this is a pick, and they're going like, find your game that way?
I'm sure some of them do. Yes, you get all types.
And media also do. It's not like a PC Gamer will just read PC Gamer. These guys do check other outlets to kind of see. So, once you get, it's kind of a virality thing, really. You can get a review somewhere, and that will kind of push someone else to cover it as well and get in touch and ask for a review code. So, again, it's, try and spread the net as wide as you can, really.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bless you.
Cool. Any more questions? All right, well.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, cool.
Hi, thank you very much. Basically, you keep talking about team. So basically, you're saying if you're alone, you're screwed.
No, no, not at all. It just means you have to do a lot more work on your own.
Yeah.
But no, you're definitely not screwed. I mean, we've seen tons of. Well, not tons, but we've definitely seen our fair share of examples of games that have been incredibly successful with 1-2-man teams. This is not something.
Handling all those things, because if you see Twitter, YouTube, press releases, where do you have time for your game?
The game development should come first, but when you're planning, you can plan things in to promote your game yourself, You just need to make sure that you're really good with your time, really efficient with your time, and you have to make sure that you're organized so that while you're making your game, you're not forgetting to talk about it, and then nobody knows about it, and then you launch it, and you're like, wait, why doesn't anybody cover my game? This is, this is my baby.
And that's why it's really key to start thinking about all of these things really early on. Start planning out and get organized. It's, there's nothing, as I said earlier, there's nothing worse, when we get a developer and it's like we haven't thought about any kind of press releases and the game's coming out tomorrow. It's, all this needs to be very well thought out if you want to kind of get your game communicated, if you want to build an audience and, ultimately do really well.
Well, and also, if you don't have a team to like brainstorm with and stuff, maybe brainstorm with your friends. I mean, you may not have time to have friends if you're doing everything on your own.
There goes your social life. Drink lots of coffee and Red Bull, you'll be fine.
Okay, thank you.
All right, cool. Thank you very much for coming, guys.
Thank you.